For sinister true fall tales, exposed hauntings and unexplained curses from the haunted season, Sarah could feel the chill sinking into her bones, a sensation that crept in like a thief in the night, stealing warmth and comfort from her home. Willow Creek wasn't just quaint, it had a weight to it that women like her carried alone a burden, especially when autumn descended like a dark curtain, suffocating any remaining light. Shadows danced around the edges of her vision, flickering just out of sight, as she struggled to keep her two little girls fed, their laughter fading under the oppressive weight of their circumstances. Late-night shifts at the abandoned textile mill became a harrowing ritual. What once buzzed with life now echoed with memories of toil and despair, the air stale and thick. Each night, the flickering bulb overhead cast ghostly shapes on the crumbling walls, and Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that she was never truly alone. The relentless sound of the mill creaking like an old man's bones sent her heart racing. On one of those long, dreary nights, her fingers brushed against the cool, cracked surface of the wall. And there it was etched into the stone, symbols intertwining in a way that felt familiar but entirely wrong. Legends bubbled up from her memory, stories of curses her grandmother had shared, foretelling doom for the townsfolk who didn't heed the warning signs. She thought of Mr. Thompson, who had done nothing but aim warm smiles her way, only to vanish into thin air without a trace. Panic lodged in her throat. The girls had been restless that week, murmuring about shadows behind the curtains, faces pressing against glass, a ghastly collection of paralyzing anxiety that painted her thoughts in dark hues. Before she could process her fears, a disruption entered her draws of uncertainty. Frank. He called himself a handyman, but he reeked of something sinister lurking just beneath his easy smile. Each time he showed up, offering to help, her skin prickled. His gaze lingered on her daughters, like a predator calculating its hunt. She felt trapped, as though everyone around her wore a cloak of secrecy, concealing their true intentions behind tight lips and narrowed eyes. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With fall deepening around her like a heavy fog, Sarah pieced together the dark history of the mill, a narrative stained with lives lost and promises broken. The chill intensified, whispering warnings she couldn't ignore. Her heart thudded against her chest like a desperate drum, urging her to act. One night, a voice reached out, just a whisper at first, beckoning her to join the other lost souls that had come before. Sarah spun around, her breath caught in her throat. She called for her daughters as the shadows lengthened, reaching hungrily for the warmth of their flesh. The realization settled deep within her chest like a stone. The whispers now had names, and their eyes glinted in the darkness, hungry for more. She was at the crossroads. What would she sacrifice to protect her family from the cursed legacy cloaking their lives? The air grew thicker, pressing around Sarah like hands tightening on her throat. She could hear it now, a faint chant mingling with the sound of the wind whistling through broken windows. A desperate morsel, her heart pounded a steady rhythm that echoed off the mill's walls. "Mommy!" came the shrill cry of Lily, her oldest, calling from somewhere deeper within dark corners of the cursed mill. That innocent voice pierced Sarah's fog of terror, yanking her back to urgency. There was no time to think, she felt it, a pull, something insatiable that lurked within the shadows, summoning her little girl like a moth to a flame. "Lily!" she yelled, fear snapping her voice sharp and clear. She stumbled forward, every instinct screaming for her to turn back, to flee into the safety of the moonlit night outside. Yet she pressed on, driven by a fierce protectiveness that threatened to slice her apart. "Mommy, I see them." The sound of Lily's voice swirled in the air, fluttering like leaves succumbed to the whims of wind. Sarah's chest constricted as the weight of her heart settled deeper. What could Lily see? She fought to rein in her rapidly spiraling dread, forcing herself to grip the flashlight, its beam sputtering beyond darkened shelves and old machinery. When she finally found Lily, the sight froze her blood. There stood her daughter, entranced, arms outstretched toward a wall where shadows pooled and darkened, forming twisted shapes that writhed like unsettling living things. The symbols. They flickered in the dim light, each one pulsating like a heartbeat, drawing Sarah closer, pulling on her skin. "Lily, please. Come to me." Panic echoed in her words, but her little girl merely chuckled, a chilling sound that sent new shivers through Sarah. A jolt of realization shot through her. This was no innocent fascination. Without another thought, she lunged forward, grabbing Lily's arm, yanking her back. Then came the laughter, shuddering and dark. It felt like the very walls of the mill were alive with it. From the shadows emerged figures, indistinct, yet somehow familiar. They loomed closer with an unnatural grace, gliding in and out of focus, wearing the keen expressions of long-lost townsfolk. Their eyes fixed on Sarah, gleaming with a mix of sorrow and intent, hungry for something she couldn't name. "Join us," a voice rasped from the depths. It was no longer a whisper, but a cacophony of longing, a sinister summons. "No! You'll take her!" Sarah screamed, clutching Lily tighter. Each pulse of energy surrounding them felt suffocating. The mill had become a maw, ready to swallow them whole. Almost instinctively, she turned to flee, dragging Lily with her as they dashed back through the disorienting maze of shadows. The laughter grew insatiable and maddening as the figures ebbed and flowed like a tide. "Mommy, I want to stay." Lily's voice was softer now, filled with a strange allure. The warmth of her daughter's little grip felt like ice against Sarah's palm. In that moment, Sarah knew this battle was only beginning. What would she have to confront? What darkness awaited her beneath the veneer of Willow Creek? As they reached the mill exit, a figure loomed at the threshold, blocking any hope of escape. Frank stood there, smile wide but eyes cold, trapping them within a fate she had yet to comprehend. The shadows danced behind him, a swirling vortex threatening to reclaim what was once lost. "Where do you think you're going?" His voice dripped with menace. And before Sarah could recoil into the night's fragile safety, she felt the darkness pressing in. It was time to make a choice that would change everything. In the heart of Willow Creek, choices came with a cost, and this night, the price would be steep. Would she surrender her daughter to save herself? Questions hung in the air, an overwhelming terror poised to unravel the thin thread binding them to safety. Time was running out. What would happen when the mill's weight came crashing down around them? Sarah's heart raced as Frank's shadow slithered closer. The air thickened with tension, wrapping around them like a serpent ready to strike. "I can't let you take her," she shouted, desperation twisting her voice. She felt the pull of the shadows behind Frank, a dark hunger that rumbled through the air, urging them closer to the abyss. Frank's smile seemed to widen, exposing teeth that glimmered with malice. "You don't understand, Sarah. She's special. The mill needs her just like it once needed the others." The walls pulsed rhythmically, echoing an ancient chant that rippled through the atmosphere, binding Sarah in its haunting grip. Behind her, Lily's face became a mask of confusion, her innocent eyes searching Sarah's for answers she didn't have. "Mommy, what's happening?" Lily whispered, her voice strained and trembling. "Stay close to me," Sarah breathed, not sure if that would be enough. She shifted, dragging Lily backward, ready to fight, but the darkness surged, enveloping them both. Each step felt heavier, like they were trudging through quicksand, feet sinking into despair. "Not so fast," Frank warned casually, almost amused. "You can't run from your fate. She's meant to join us." A chill shot through Sarah, tightening her throat. How many others had come to this place, drawn by the mill's sinister secrets? Shadows flickered at the edges of her vision, flickering faces echoing her fears. Behind Frank, the figures began to materialize, men, women, and children, their expressions frozen in eternal sorrow. They reached out, their arms stretching toward Lily, faces filling with an unnatural warmth, like fireflies beckoning her closer. "Lily, don't!" Sarah screamed, as if her voice could sever the invisible ties binding her daughter to the spirits. But Lily's expression softened, her body bending toward the figures, drawn by an invisible force. "Mommy, they're sad," Lily cooed, her small fingers twitching, almost entranced. "No. They're tricking you." Panic clawed at Sarah's insides. She could feel the weight of the past pressing against her, the screams of those who had vanished echoing faintly in her ears. "We need to leave, now." With a fierce tug, Sarah swung Lily close, wrapping her arms protectively around her. But the light from her flashlight flickered erratically, illuminating the faces of the damned. The realization of a deeper horror gripped her. These weren't just spirits, they were memories, echoing the tragedies of Willow Creek's history. "Mommy, please, let me stay," Lily whispered again, her voice thick with innocence and a strange longing that twisted Sarah's stomach. "Lily, you don't understand." Fear surged inside her, battling between the bond of motherhood and the darkness coiling around them. The reverberation of the chant grew louder, threatening to drown out her thoughts. "We have to stick together." The shadows seemed to spin and dance as if to taunt them. Frank laughed softly, his tone melodic yet dripping with malice. "You can't fight this, Sarah. Love won't save you here." In a moment of raw, desperate resolve, Sarah found herself pushed against the wall of figures. She felt a shattering crack beneath her feet, a throbbing pulse vibrating from the mill's depths. "If you try to take her, I swear." Suddenly, the ground shifted beneath them. The mill groaned, a spine-chilling roar that echoed the unearthed agony of those trapped within its walls. "Mommy!" Lily cried, fear lacing through her words. Then the darkness surged and enveloped them completely, and all Sarah could hear was the mounting chaos of her own racing heartbeat, the shrieks of the past twisting around her like chains. Would they escape, or would they join the chorus of lost souls forever? The shadows pulled tighter, revealing a fate no mother was prepared to face, as the weight of Willow Creek's history became a living nightmare. What would it take to sever the threads of fate binding Lily to this hell? And as the very walls trembled, a voice echoed from deep within, whispering promises of salvation or perdition. What price would Sarah pay to reclaim her child? The darkness swirled around them, thick and suffocating, flooding Sarah's senses. Every breath turned to ash in her lungs, engulfed in the stench of decay and despair. She clutched Lily tightly, her eyes darting as the faces of the lost flickered like shadows cast by a dying flame. "Stay with me, Lily." Her own voice quavered. But Mommy Lily's voice was a thread, delicate and frail against the unyielding darkness. "I feel them. They need me no." Sarah shouted, panic clawing at her throat. The mill creaked ominously, as if agreeing with Lily's sentiments. It was alive, breathing, and hungry. Frank's silhouette grew heavier, his laughter echoing against the stone walls like an act of perverse delight. "They've waited so long, Sarah. You can't deny her destiny." This was more than a twisted game. It was a trap, one crafted by pain, betrayal, and a promise whispered by the cursed spirit of the mill. Wouldn't every mother protect their child, even at a cost? As shadows danced closer, Sarah pressed her back against the cold stone wall. The rhythm of the chant quickened, spiraling madly into a violent tempo that matched the racing of her heart. The figures, haunting in their silent cries, surged forward. They reached out with desperate fingers, intent on ensnaring Lily. "Lily, listen to me," Sarah pleaded, her voice cracking under the pressure. "They are lying. They want you to stay so they can steal you." But Lily, lost in a fog of sorrow and longing, trembled with indecision. "But Mommy, what if they're telling the truth? What if they are waiting for me?" Her eyes sparkled with childish wonder, creating a dagger of despair in Sarah's chest. With every flickering beam from her flashlight, faces of agony turned into despair. Forgotten lives screamed silently for release. In that moment, Sarah felt the weight of their history pressing down on her. Each soul had broached the mill's threshold, seduced by promises of restoration, only to be met with the dark yawning maw of eternal sorrow. "Join us, sweet child," they echoed. The darkness resonated in each word, warping the air. "Run. We must run." Sarah grabbed Lily's hand, pulling her back, fighting against the pull of the spirits. She could feel the presence of Frank pressing down on them, his malice wrapping around them like a vice. Suddenly, without warning, the walls heaved. A split opened in the floor, black as night. From its depths, a pulsating energy reached out like tendrils searching for a living litmus. The mill was alive, and it was furious. "Stay away from her!" Sarah screamed defiantly. As she stepped backward, the floor shattered, splintering like glass. Light erupted from the crack, warm and inviting, a stark contrast to the engulfing darkness. It held the promise of escape, yet she could feel the shadows tightening their grip on her daughter. "No!" Sarah lunged toward the light, fear driving her. She had to make a choice. "Lily!" she cried, a primal wail. "Trust me." Torn between the call of the mill and the heat of her mother's love, Lily hesitated, giving Sarah the precious moment she needed. With a surge of raw love, she pulled her daughter toward that light, teeth gritted, heart pounding. But Frank's laughter echoed, sinister and mocking. "You can't escape what's already bound." The darkness roared back, pulling them both as if the very air had turned into a sentient beast, hungry and relentless. As they reached the threshold of the light, Sarah felt a searing pain. Something cold and hard gripped her heart, tighter than the darkness surrounding them. In that desperate moment, a horrifying thought struck her: what if Frank twisted the truth? What if in escaping, they became the very thing they dreaded? And before she could grasp the answer, the shadows surged. What was the true cost of their freedom? Would love be enough to sever the bond, or would the cursed history of the mill drag them back to join the lost souls? Sarah's breath hitched as the shadows pulled her back, the echo of Frank's laughter mingling with Lily's terrified screams. The walls of the mill writhed with ancient malice, a hungry void from which no one had returned. What was waiting at the other end? The light flickered, pulsating like a heartbeat, battling against the encroaching darkness. Sarah felt its warmth wrap around them both, but the shadows lashed out, tearing at her skin, each pull seeming like a whisper of despair. "No," she shouted, but the word shattered in the air. A suffocating dread filled her as she fought to hold on to Lily. The floor beneath them groaned, shifting like the grasp of a dying man. "Lily, please." For a moment, hope flared in the child's eyes, but uncertainty flickered like a candle in a storm. "Mommy, focus, Lily. Focus on me. We're almost there." Sarah dragged her toward the light, each step heavy as if wading through water. But the shadows writhed, twisting around her legs, pulling her down. Panic surged, and she threw herself forward, heart racing as she felt a tugging desperation from the pit of darkness. "Join us!" The voices turned sinister, a symphony of sorrow. Each word thrummed in her ears, brushing against her sanity. They weren't just voices, they were memories: lost little girls, forgotten mothers. She could feel their cold fingers grazing against her, sapping her strength. "Help us, sweet child!" Tears streamed down Lily's face, a cascade of confusion and fear, her tiny hand clawing for release. "Mommy, we can't leave them. Lily, they will take you. They will consume you." Frank's figure loomed, a towering shadow against the light, smirking with malevolence. "Isn't this what you wanted? To save Lily? You can't save her, Sarah. Embrace it." "No." She was fervent now, her voice cutting through the miasma of terror. "I want to let you take her." The light pulsed brighter, almost blinding, pushing against the shadows that twisted and clawed, hungering for their warmth. Breath heavy and raspy, Sarah flung herself and her daughter toward the glow. But with a sickening lurch, the ground fractured, and the fissure yawned wider, hungry and dark. The laughter of the lost souls echoed, wrapping around them like chains. And then, it happened, the pulsating light began to dim, flickering as if it, too, had grown tired. "Mommy!" Lily cried, the quaver in her voice rattling Sarah's core. The glow flickered one last time, then collapsed into itself, dragging the light into the maw of the rock. Time slowed. The shadows shrieked. Sarah's heart thundered, her choice frozen in a heartbeat. They could escape or fall deeper. In that brief pause, a desperate surge of maternal instinct consumed her. "We'll go together. On the count of 3. 1. 2. A deafening roar erupted around them, the mill shuddering with ancient fury, demanding what was rightfully its. 3. With everything she had, Sarah launched herself and Lily into the light just as she felt the cold grasp of the shadows on her ankles, pulling back. Heart-stoppingly close, Sarah sensed the barrier between life and death wobbling like a tightrope. Gasping as they landed, they were met not with the sweet promise of freedom but with an unexpected stillness. The tranquility felt wrong, like the calm before a storm. "Did we make it?" Lily whispered, eyes wide with worry. But then the air grew thick once more. The joy of escape quickly faded, replaced by an unsettling flicker in the darkness behind them. An iridescent mist, swirling and curling, emerged from the crack they had just escaped. "This isn't over," Frank's voice echoed, distorted by distance and something far more sinister. In the heart of Sarah's fear, a chilling realization settled in. The mill had let them go, but for what cost? "Mommy?" Lily's small voice quivered beside her. "What did we leave behind?" Before Sarah could answer, shadows flared around them, coiling upwards, creeping back and twisting like vengeful serpents. And there it was, the darkness had reclaimed its grip. What horror still lingered? What would follow them into the world beyond the mill? The remnants of the past, angry and restless, were not done yet. Sarah's breath came fast, a shallow gasp against the oppressive air. They were no longer in the mill, but the confinement of shadows felt dragged along with them, like a weight on their souls. Coolness slithered beneath her skin, a perpetual reminder of the darkness they had barely escaped. "Mommy, I'm scared." Lily clutched her mother's hand tighter, her knuckles painfully white. The girl searched her mother's eyes, looking for reassurance that simply wasn't there. "Me too, sweetheart." They stood in a clearing, surrounded by twisted trees and faint echoes of what once was. The landscape was a mirror of despair, a post-apocalyptic world where light seemed forgotten. There was no solace, only the heavy silence broken by the rustling of the leaves that whispered secrets meant for no living ears. Sarah scanned the darkness around them, brow furrowed. Was this still part of the mill's curse? Or had they crossed into another realm, a limbo for those who dared confront the shadows? Panic knotted her stomach. "We have to move," she urged, pulling Lily gently along. Each step felt weighed down by the very air they breathed, a tense anticipation crackling like electricity. As they wandered deeper into the dismal forest, the chill began to hum with life. Flickering shadows danced at the edges of their vision, darting between the trees. An unsettling feeling crawled up Sarah's spine that they were not alone. "Mommy?" Lily's voice trembled, reflecting the fear that coursed through her tiny body. "What are those things?" Before Sarah could respond, a low growl echoed through the trees. Startled, she looked toward the source of the noise. For an instant, she thought she saw a figure, a dark silhouette emerging among the foliage. "Keep close to me, Lily," Sarah whispered, casting backward glances. But the creature did not remain hidden. It lunged forward, a beast born from nightmares, its eyes glowing with the light of the moon. It had the form of a dog, but its body was twisted, its form barely recognizable, shadowy and grotesque. "Mama!" Lily screamed, yanking at Sarah's hand. They turned to flee, but the creature stalked them with an eagerness only an unseen terror could possess. Then came the whispers, disembodied and eerie, as if the forest were speaking. "Stay, just stay with us strong," tethering poles beckoned Sarah and Lily, an enchantment that promised safety in surrender. "No. We won tea," Sarah shouted, adrenaline pulsing through her veins. She yanked Lily toward a narrow path, fighting against the overwhelming presence behind them. The beast chased with relentless determination, weaving through the trees like a shadow, gaining ground. Sarah's heart raced, each beat a frantic drum summoning her to protect her daughter at all costs. They came to a dead end, a cliff that dropped off into nothingness. The darkness below seemed eager to envelope them. "Mommy!" Lily cried, panic rising like a tide. Sarah looked back, the creature crouched low, waiting for them to despair. "Jump!" Sarah shouted, her voice hoarse. "Trust me. We'll land safely, I promise." But beneath the mounting horror, a doubt settled. Would the darkness below truly catch them? Or would they fall into a deeper abyss? "We can't." Lily whimpered, tears brimming, her faith wavering. The creature's growl filled the air once more. Their time had run out. 3-2 Sarah counted, battling her instincts, desperately trying to salvage hope against despair. "Mommy, please." Lily's voice cracked. "Now." They leaped, arms locked together, into the consuming void and then fell into silence. But what awaited them on the other side? Was this a path to freedom, or another layer of terror yet unseen? Their fates hung in the balance, precariously teetering on the edge of the abyss. The plunge felt eternal, a tunnel of darkness that swallowed their screams. Sarah held Lily tightly, heart thumping against her ribcage, piercing through the dark silence like a beacon of fear. For a moment, there was only weightlessness, a suffocating embrace of nothingness. Then, a hard impact jolted them back to consciousness. They landed in a murky pool, surrounded by thick mist. The air was heavy and damp, clinging to their skin like a shroud. Gasping, Sarah pulled Lily to her feet, their surroundings coming into focus. It was a cave, its walls slick and cold, dripping with water that echoed ominously. The only source of light seemed to come from a strange phosphorescent glow that pulsed softly, illuminating twisted formations that jutted out from the rock. "Where are we?" Lily's voice quivered, eyes wide with terror, scanning the oppressive environment. "I don't know," Sarah admitted, trying to steady herself. The reality of their descent weighed on her, the fear of unseen dangers lurking in this grotesque domain. As they moved deeper into the cave, the whispers returned, louder and more sinister, curling around their thoughts like smoke. "Stay with us, don't run, don't hide, keep walking, honey," Sarah urged, gripping Lily's hand tighter, trying her best to drown out the eerie calls. Yet each step echoed, resonating with every unsettling sound that brushed against their ears. Drips turned to distant splashes, and shadows danced, teasing their vision. Suddenly, the ground shifted beneath them, a trickle of gravel collapsing into a small crevice. Startled, they stopped. "Did you feel that?" Sarah whispered. "Maybe we should go back," Lily suggested, her voice tiny and fragile among the vast darkness. "No." Sarah snapped, more harshly than intended. "We have to keep going. We can't stay here." But the cave showed no signs of surrender. The ground morphed into jagged rocks that seemed to attack her feet. Each step sent jolts of pain up her legs. The phosphorescent light flickered, casting grotesque shadows of false arms extending toward them, grasping for their warmth. And then it happened. A piercing scream echoed through the cave, the air thick with a sudden chill. Sarah froze, that cry was undeniably human. "Mommy, please." Lily whimpered. "Stay close." Sarah shouted, fighting back the nausea rising in her throat. They rushed toward the source of the scream. The cries grew louder, filled with anguish as they stumbled upon a small alcove. There, among the dim light, lay a woman, her body twisted as though caught in an endless spasm. Her eyes, wide with terror, fixed upon the girls, pleading as if she had seen horrors beyond comprehension. "Help me," she rasped. "Who did this to you?" Sarah shouted, feeling dread swell within her. Before the woman could respond, a low growl rumbled behind them, reverberating through the cavern like thunder. "No!" The woman's face twisted in panic. "You must leave. He's coming for you." Every instinct screamed to run. Sarah gripped Lily, and they darted back into the darkness, hearts pounding, driven by an insatiable need to survive. What did she mean? Lily gasped, her voice trembling. "Just keep going," Sarah urged, ignoring the doubts clawing at her mind. Were they truly escaping? Or were they running toward something worse? The growl echoed again, this time closer, accompanied by a rush of wind that swept through the cave, stirring up a storm of fear. Shadows converged, merging into a dark mass that began to take form. "Sarah," a voice hissed through the shadows, familiar yet terrifying. "Why did you leave me?" Reality blurred around Sarah, panic blinding her. The shadows writhed, mocking her, and she realized they weren't just threats, they were remnants of everything she had fought to escape. "Run," she screamed, her voice fueled by primal fear. But was there anywhere left to run? Their fates entwined again as the darkness surged forward, demanding its due. The cavern's ceiling began to tremble, threatening to collapse in on them as they sprinted toward the uncertain depths ahead. What lay at the end of this dark tunnel? A door? An escape? Or a trap waiting to be sprung? The air thickened with a palpable dread as Sarah and Lily plunged deeper into the cave's maw, shadows twisting around them like hungry serpents. Every step felt heavier, the stony floor crawling with a life of its own, rippling beneath their feet in a grotesque dance of terror. "Keep moving," Sarah shouted, her breath coming in desperation as they pushed ahead. The shadows they had left behind warped, slithering and reaching for them as if drawn by their fear. The low growl faded momentarily, replaced by a dissonant melody that floated from the depths, a cacophony of mournful cries and laughter, as if something wicked played a twisted game. "Mommy, I don't like this," Lily whined, her voice trembling, a mixture of fright and fatigue. "I know, sweetie. I don't either," Sarah gulped, forcing the words out. "But we have to stay strong." Just then, the phosphorescent glow flickered erratically. A pulse, like a heartbeat, surged through the cave, causing the walls to breathe. For a moment, everything was silent, and Sarah allowed herself an instant of false security, a breath, a glimmer of hope. But hope felt like a fragile thread, ready to snap. Without warning, the growl surged back, more menacing and resonant, echoing off the stone walls like a war drum. Panic ignited in Sarah's chest as she moved even faster, dragging Lily along. Suddenly, the ground beneath them gave way, and they teetered on the edge of another precipice where a void yawned open, a sheer drop into further darkness. "Don't look down," she urged. "Just hold on to me." A shuddering wail erupted from the depths below, a sound that crawled into her mind, freezing her blood. Shadows flickered, twisting and folding into grotesque shapes. They wrenched their way toward the light, battling for an existence in the ring of luminescence as if it was their only hope. What did they want? A figure materialized from the depths of the shadows, a silhouette of a man, faceless yet knowing. "Why did you come here?" he whispered, his voice slicing through the air with a slow, dreadful tease. "You'll never leave." Who are you?" Sarah stammered, her voice cracking as terror gripped her heart like a vice. "Just a keeper of secrets and souls," he said, a twisted grin forming as he stepped forward, the shadows swirling around him like a cloak. "You and the girl you've meddled in things you can't comprehend." "Stop!" Sarah yelled, instinctively shielding Lily behind her. The shadows wriggled closer, and she felt their cold fingers brush against her skin, testing her resolve. Another scream erupted from the shadows, clawing through Sarah's mind. The woman from before, trapped in her pain, gripped her heart with urgency. Run. Do not let him take you. Mommy. Lily's voice rose in panic. With a burst of adrenaline, Sarah pulled her daughter toward a narrow passageway that appeared ahead, barely aglow with light. They darted into the fissure, a tight squeeze between the rock walls as the shadows roared in frustration. The growl evolved into a chorus of fury, reverberating off the walls, echoing their retreat. Yet as they ran, the walls began to close in, pressing against them as they moved through the damp, musty air. Sarah felt a cool hand graze her arm, so real, so intimately cold, sending a shock through her. You can't escape. They emerged into a chamber, larger and more foreboding, the ground a swirling pool of shadow and light. Floating in the center was a grotesque altar, etched with ancient runes, pulsating dark energy. Squinting against the dimness, she could make out a mirror at its center. Mommy, what is that? Lily asked, trembling. Stay close. Sarah hissed, propelled by instinct to protect her daughter, to shield her from whatever lurked in this abyss. As they inched forward, the mirror began to ripple, reflecting not their images but alternate versions of themselves, twisted, sorrowful visages trapped in eternal despair. Embrace your fate, a whisper echoed, wrapping around them like smoke. Run. Sarah pulled Lily, fear shredding her resolve, aware that time was slipping through their fingers. Like sand. Would the visions pull them back? It was a gamble they couldn't afford. The chamber trembled, the growl reverberating more violently. Sarah and Lily raced toward an opening vibrating with energy, memories of warmth and safety beckoning from beyond the threshold. But would the light welcome them back? Or would they be swallowed whole, victims of the very darkness they sought to flee? Tension hung heavy as they pushed through, the energies colliding behind them, ready to claim what was rightfully theirs. What awaited them on the other side? Freedom or another layer of the nightmare? Would they emerge, or be lost forever in this new treachery? Emerging from the tunnel, Sarah and Lily stumbled into an endless field shrouded in dense mist. The air was thick, clinging to their skin like a clammy hug. The light inside the cave faded behind them, plunging them into a dim twilight where shapes loomed and shifted in the haze. Look, Mommy. Over there. Lily pointed at twisted trees that stood like sentinels, their branches gnarled and reaching as if trying to grasp the very sky. Shadows danced among the trunks, flickers of movement just out of sight. Stay close, Sarah warned, but her voice quivered with uncertainty. Every instinct screamed to turn back, to return to the safety of illuminated caves. But behind her lay unyielding darkness, and ahead whispered the promise of escape or something far worse. They walked forward, each footfall muffled by the thick mist. A feeling of dread crept up Sarah's spine, sharpening her senses. Whispers floated through the air, almost a melody, sweet and sinister. Join us, they beckoned, winding around her head like a serpentine lullaby. Mommy, I don't like this, Lily whimpered, her little hand trembling in Sarah's grip. I know, honey. Sarah's heart raced as the whispers crescendoed, drowning her thoughts in a cacophony of unnerving promises and despair. Panic threatened to overwhelm her, but she forced herself to move, pulling Lily along. The trees began to close in, the mist shifting and swirling as if alive. A chill settled in the air, and with it, a heavy silence descended, the oppressive kind that made every sound feel like a betrayal. Then came a low growl, echoing from somewhere deep within the fog, familiar yet more menacing. The keeper, Sarah breathed, recalling the shadow from the cave. They hadn't escaped, they'd merely traded one nightmare for another. Mommy. Lily clutched her tightly, senses reeling. I want to go home. Me too, sweetie. Just hold on tight. Fear clawed at Sarah's throat as she fought against the darkness that threatened to envelop them. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the mist, too majestic and terrifying. Cloaked in shadows, a woman with hollow eyes stared directly at them. Her hair flowed like dark water, and her smile was both inviting and hollow. Lost little girls, are we?" she sang, her voice lilting yet menacing. "Leave us alone." Sarah screamed, instinctively stepping in front of Lily. The woman's gaze held a power that sent tremors of dread down her spine. "The mirror showed me your souls, sweet child. You cannot escape what you are," she whispered, extending a hand, beckoning them closer. The temperature plummeted, and every hair on Sarah's body stood on end. "Run!" she shouted, pulling Lily into a sprint. The icy tendrils of mist grasped at their heels, desperate to hold them back, to snatch them into the darkness. As they darted through the trees, shadows shifted and twisted in grotesque forms, faces contorting with anguish. Whispers turned to screams, scratching at their ears, intertwining with desperation and terror. "Stay with me!" Sarah desperately yelled, fighting against despair. Panic surged as they broke free from the trees and stumbled into an open space, a clearing surrounded by an unfathomable void. The ground shimmered with an otherworldly glow, eerily illuminating the ruins of an ancient altar that looked familiar, almost like the one before. "What is it?" Lily asked, her trembling voice barely audible above the rising chaos around them. "Something we need to leave," Sarah urged, wrestling with her fear. The figure of the woman loomed closer, her laughter echoing through the air, mingling with the cries of 1,000 lost souls. "Come home, come join us." The shadows clutched at Sarah's heels, and with every step, she felt the light within her dim. They couldn't afford to linger. And just then, they spotted another passageway, beckoning from beyond the altar, shrouded in swirling mists. "Now, Lily. Go." But would they find salvation there, or a new torment awaited? In the heart of the darkness, did freedom still exist? As they sprinted toward the promise of light, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something far worse lay in wait. What lay at the end of the passage? A door to survival or the ultimate sacrifice? As they barreled through the passageway, Sarah felt the weight of her fears pressing down on her, a tormenting reminder of the horrors they had encountered. Dark tendrils snaked at their heels, whispering promises as they clawed at the edges of her resolve. "Keep going, sweetheart," she urged Lily, who was trembling, her small frame lit with a mix of fear and determination. The passage seemed to stretch endlessly, the air thick with ancient secrets and toxic despair. They raced forward, hearts pounding a frantic rhythm that matched the echoing growls of the darkness pursuing them. Just when it felt like hope was a cruel taunt, they burst from the narrowing corridor and fell into a blinding light. They stumbled into a sunlit meadow, bright and vibrant, a stark contrast to the darkness that had chased them. For a moment, the warmth wrapped around them like a loving embrace. "Mommy, we made it!" Lily gasped, a glimmer of hope igniting in her wide eyes. But that brightness felt too good to be true. Sarah's heart raced as she took in their surroundings, and wariness crept back in. The meadow was beautiful, almost surreal, yet something gnawed at her gut, a warning she couldn't ignore. Then came laughter. Haunting and beautiful, it floated through the air like a song. Figures began to appear from behind the trees, mothers and daughters, joyful and unafraid, but their eyes had a glassy sheen, as if they were not fully aware. "Join us," they sang in unison, their hands outstretched, their faces wearing masks of tranquility that sent chills rippling down Sarah's spine. "No!" Sarah yelled, adrenaline surging. "Stay back!" She gripped Lily's hand tighter. The figures hesitated, confusion flickering across their otherwise serene faces, but then they broke into smiles, seemingly unfazed by Sarah's fear. "You're safe now. You belong with us." The sweet melody twisted in the air, wrapping around them like a vine, threatening to ensnare them once more. "Mommy, they look like us," Lily whispered, innocent awe mingled with dread. "Can we stay?" Terror froze Sarah's breath. Would Lily be drawn to this haunting beauty? This dreamlike world held the echoes of those who had vanished, trapped in eternal bliss, yet Sarah knew the truth. It was a trap. "Lily, listen to me," she implored, her voice thick with urgency. This is not real. We have to go. Now. But it was as if time slowed, the ground shifting beneath them, of its own volition. The figures began to close in, their movements fluid and elegant, threading colorful fantasies around Sarah and Lily. The whispers morphed into urgent cries, rising in volubility like a tide. No. Sarah felt the darkness at her back gain ground. If she didn't act fast, the tendrils would wrap around them again. We will not give in. She shouted, pushing into her own mind in hopes of unfurling an escape. The light around them flickered, illuminating the faint outlines of the shadows coiling back from the meadow. You don't belong here. The figures cried, their illusions cracking, revealing glimpses of desperation in their eyes. Run! Sarah shrieked as she launched herself toward a flickering edge of light, her heart racing, tightly pulling Lily along. Behind her, she heard the laughter morph into howls of fury, the figures' expressions melting away, replaced by the anguish of lost souls. Darkness lashed out as the meadow shifted, the ground trembling beneath their feet. We won't be trapped. Sarah propelled Lily forward just as the shattering of the illusion echoed through the air. They burst into the light, blinding and overwhelming, sending them sprawling onto solid ground. They landed in a space filled with warmth, surrounded by blooming flowers, sunlight beaming from above like an embrace. It felt different here, real, as if they had emerged from a nightmare. Where are we? Lily murmured, her voice shaky yet tinged with awe. I think we're safe, Sarah breathed heavily, glancing back to where the shadows had just festered. The meadow faded into obscurity, a distant echo of darkness dispelled by the light. Still, something tugged. At her heart, a sense of something unfinished. But before she could reflect further, a shimmering mist coalesced nearby, taking on a familiar shape. It was the woman from the cave, now softened and serene. You chose love and light, she said gently, her once hollow eyes now glimmering with warmth. But the journey isn't over. You must carry this light back to Willow Creek. You can't forget, or it will take you again. But what about everyone else? Sarah asked, desperation creeping into her voice. Remember the darkness, the woman whispered, and keep it at bay. Your bond is strong, but the past is always lurking. As the misty figure began to dissipate, so too did the tension in Sarah's heart. They had reclaimed a piece of their light, but it was true a price had been paid. Let us go home, Lily, she said, determination lighting her core. They turned away from the dissipating mist and the weight of despair at their backs, holding on to the warmth of their connection as they stepped into the brightness ahead. Freedom lay before them, a path forged together, unyielding against the darkness that lingered. They were not just survivors, they were lights in the storm. And as they walked toward the horizon, a sense of hope swelled. The promise of a new dawn awaited, carried by the courage of a mother's heart and a daughter's dream, a dream that would never yield to the darkness again. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss our next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, and flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to show your support. Only true fans understand the importance of uplifting the channel through these actions.